Yo, 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 what is going on, COD Familia? It is your boy BN. Today, I thought we would switch things up. And I saw that there was a post here and a second one that we're going to touch on as we get further down that was talking about Chisgule. And some of the posts here, as they do at times, and I imagine every creator at some point will probably get some of this. And typically, the bigger you are, right, the more likely it may happen, even if it is still just a small amount every so often, was posted here initially. And we're going to start with this one here by Gray Balls. And there was something that we ended up seeing as we will continue down and get deeper into the video, where people are almost questioning whether or not Chisgule deserves his partner status with COD specifically, whether or not he has put enough into the game to be as deserving as some of the community compares him with other creators that are in the scene, particularly one in question. And we're going to break this down, and I'm just going to give you my thoughts. And as always, if you enjoy the content, make sure you throw us up, because that was a lot. Thanks. So starting with G-Balls here, the GOAT made another tier list. Okay, and we get some more, right? Okay, can you stop hating on mages, right? Tinsy hits Chizzy with that. Otherwise, I'll have to follow. And again, basic Tinsy stuff. We get further down. Okay, not putting Lily in S. Yeah, it's Moo, it's C. Oh, never mind, it's A. Baldy's wrong again. Okay, still should be S. Thea needs to be A or B in my opinion. Thea in C is criminal. Tohar C is also criminal. He's B at least. And for this part, I just want to highlight that when even the rock creators, right? When Omni or any of the other, big creator names outside of those two that I mostly see, and even if you look at the COD creators, right? Anytime they do tier lists, I believe up to every single time, these are personal tier lists, right? So they are not backed by data, by top fighter votes, community polling. To my knowledge, I've never seen, I will say I've watched a couple of them, but and as far as like for the beginning, right? Because typically that's where you would usually hear, well, this is what I'm going off of. So again, for me, my view is pretty simple. And I've stated this before when it comes to tier lists, is that if you're going to do a personal tier list for anything, now keep in mind, anyone can do a tier list. I'm just saying what I like because I feel like it's more accurate. There's a little bit more value and integrity to a tier list when you do it this way. Either A, and I only think that there's only two acceptable options in my opinion. Either A, you are a massive fighter and you have tested out so many heroes yourself. You've tested out so many combinations to where you feel like you can speak to every viable pairing match, match duo, if you will, for any primary, secondary that you could run out there on the field because you have thoroughly tested. And I'm not saying you ran them and did like 5 rallies, right? No, like you've you've taken 2 legendaries and you've done 5 or 10 rallies on another 2 legendaries, right? And then you took 4 other completely different heroes, and then it was your 2, right, versus your opponent's 2. No, I mean like you take 2 and you test them against any other viable matchup, and then you go to the next 2, or you swap and then you swap the secondary and the primary, right? And what I'm saying is that that's how you would thoroughly, systematically test, and then you look at reports, and then you're gaining insight from the analytics, right, that you're seeing based on how the report goes, right? So for me, that's A. Like you're thoroughly testing it. Or B, you go and you ask the top fighters, the ones who are putting in a lot of work, the ones who are doing a lot of rallies, which in most cases is going to be your mid-high spenders on average, and you ask them for their input, right? Now, when I have done tier lists, which I've done, I think 2 or 3 at minimum that I can recall, this is how I've done it. Now, keep in mind, this also requires a lot of work because when I did it, I messaged, I think, the top 200, top 300 players based on power at the time. So we weren't specifically looking at, which again, I actually planning to do this next time, where we look at the top 200 to 300 at minimum PvP performers. Because obviously in that case, then we can go off and say, okay, these are the top PvP performers, right? They were fighting the most this last season. Everything is very recent. We can kind of see what the current meta is. There's a little more accuracy in that regard, or just more accuracy in general. So for me, those are one of the two ways that not to say it's acceptable, but that I feel has the best accuracy and the best value for what you would be getting as a player, right? So in that case, right, like you're always, and regardless, even if you come out with that, even if I was to do a list like that, you're still going to have people regardless that are going to say, oh, well, this person should be there, that should be there. That's fine. But there's a little bit more weight to the water, if you will. Okay, let's continue, right? Uber says, can we just ban Chiz from making tier lists? He doesn't even play the game. I mean, that's incorrect, right? I think most people know that Chiz does play the game, even if his primary focus may be on Rock. I mean, the fact is that I don't know if he's ever come out and said, like, this is how many hours I put into Rock versus how many hours I put into COD. But we do know that he's active and he does play, even if it may be visually appearing that Rock might be the primary versus COD being the secondary, especially when it comes to things like live streams, right? Okay. And then Bad Dog says, Chisgule obviously still plays this game. What do you mean? And then Barracuda says he rage quit 8 seasons ago after failing to get MILF pass. I mean, to be honest, again, he still plays, right? And I just think it's unfair, I think, for anyone when you see posts and comments like that just aren't accurate, right? They're not truthful to what the current state is. Now, it may be more appropriate to say something like, well, right, if you were to say, like, okay, maybe he's a little bit less active, you could say, well, he used to put in 10 hours a day, but now because of 8 seasons ago, after failing to get the MILF pass, now he's only putting in 8 hours a day. But you're never usually going to see people make comments in that way, right? Because in most cases, it's usually, right, they kind of want to be punching down. It feels like. Okay, so we continue, right? Because we want to get to the good stuff here. So he's still playing, by the way, on VC during war, talking and everything. And again, I've heard that as well. Involved in leadership as well. We know that he was involved in KVK and diplomacy for some of the KVK seasons we know of as well. Game is not only what is being said by certain people here. Playing while streaming Rock sounds right. I mean, if he's a big day of KVK and Rock, of course, there's a chance he won't be there that day. I mean, I think the thing when you look at someone like Chisgule, right, I think the immediate thing is, I mean, let's put things into appropriate perspective. From my research, because I've looked into other kingdom builders, and those of you that know, I've done a video, I think 2 or 3 of these now, where we look at the top grossing kingdom builders, basically the ones that make the most amount of money on the North American leaderboards for specifically United States. That's on Google Play. And we've looked at those, and then we've gone through those kingdom builders for the ones that have not only made the most money, have the most amount of consistent downloads over usually about a quarter to semi-annually of a period. And then we look at those, because typically if you're getting consistent high downloads, it means your game is still pretty active, right? It's a soft indicator. And so we looked at those games, and I'm talking games like Whiteout Survival, Lords Mobile, State of Survival, just to name some. And then obviously Rise of Kingdoms is in there with a few others. And you look at these games and you look at the content creators that are on them. And Chisgule, just to be fair, I mean, he is the largest creator within the kingdom builder genre as a whole that I know of for the games that I've looked into. And I'm talking about someone who like lives, eats, breathes shiitake mushrooms, and sleeps kingdom builder games as a primary focus, right? He is the largest creator by far, and no one else is really close to him in subs. And again, that's for all the active kingdom builders that I have looked at when I've done my research. And I should say like the top active performing ones, right? So I say all of this to say that if Rock is the primary game, even if he is a partner in both, don't get me wrong. Like, would it be nice if Chiz streamed COD? Even if it's for like final zones. I mean, I think he's done maybe a handful of streams, if that I can recall. But yeah, would it be great if he streamed COD, a little bit more? Sure. However, I feel like if you compare between something like Rock and COD, right, and if you have a big event in Rock versus a big event in COD, the priority for him is most likely going to be Rock. Again, that's more of where the average viewership is coming, which just makes sense. Okay, so then we got Jay Geezy coming in. Says, just because his tier list is questionable don't mean he don't play. Plus, regardless of him playing or not, he's still getting paid. So who's really winning here? I mean, hey, touche. Jay Geezy, bring in the perspective. So Davis says he did first research we had about the new pets and testings with Quan and some others. He's involved in leadership, helpings with war pings and stuff. He's active. Don't know what's up with people here. LMAO. I mean, again, right there you go. So, right. So just another reference in that point. Yeah, he gets paid regardless. 2 strong YouTube feeds gets him invited to play a lot of games. I mean, that's kind of how it is, man. When you get really big, you get a little bit more opportunity. That's just, or as you continue to grow. Ragbash says just his videos, repetitive, low effort. Chisgule the real scammer of COD. To be fair, that seems pretty insincere, and I would say almost a blasphemous comment. Okay, so I mean, fair enough. And for him, he started content creator, probably grinded to be known in Rock, and got an opportunity for COD after. Which, to be fair, again, and I haven't gone incredibly far back in Chisgule's video history, but I know that initially his main kind of primary boom was from Rock. And I believe he was playing in beta, dedicated a very large part, if not pretty much the majority from what I had seen of his content to that, and was able to grow and just really blow up from that game, which is, I mean, to be honest, pretty awesome to see, given, there was probably like a YouTube popularity boom back then around that time. Maybe you could have argued with how much he's been able to grow from it. So Ragbash says he deserves it, though. bossnasti might know more about the game at this point. Well, so... It's funny when I hear people talk about that, right? Because at least as it pertains to me, I've always been very transparent when I tell people there are certain things that I know a lot more about anyone that I have met and have seen. And this doesn't mean that there's not people out there who probably know a decent amount and maybe close to the amount that I know when it comes to knowledge. But when you combine kind of knowledge and experience in certain areas, I definitely feel that I exceed or am pretty high in that level. And then there's other areas that I don't know a lot about. It's not because of, and keep in mind, there's a big difference between, not being smart about something and just not knowing anything really about it. Anyone can learn about anything. You just have to put some time in and some commitment and some effort and some consistency, right? And then, ask questions, right? If you can't figure it out and you don't know. Those parts aren't the challenge or the difficult portion. But for me, like a great example, right? You're not going to see me come out and talk about things like, hero pairings as an example, right? Where it's like, I'm giving you my personal opinion on hero pairings. Why? Because I don't know enough at the moment about hero pairings to where I could give you a kind of expert level take on those. But one of the things I can do, which kind of hints to what I was saying before, is about where I can go and I can ask experts and I can have conversations with experts and I can learn from them and I can also get educated and I can gain some experience through hearing them. And at the same time, I can ask them questions, we can poll them, and we can put that information out, which is incredibly valuable to the community. But like I said, it doesn't mean that everyone knows everything, knows everything about everything, if you will. But like I said, right, I think it's just important people know it's like sometimes it's good to kind of stay in your lane, at least when it comes to like what you are comfortable and confident speaking about. And I think that's really important, hopefully, not only in the game, but just general in life. Like, you're not going to see me ever talk about something that I don't feel that I know enough about and I'm not confident enough in to speak about, which, I think is just kind of a good way to go about it. So, saying, more this point. Yeah, I still remember the Diplo King video we did. Oh wait, was that the TFS one? BN does server server pairing data drama. I mean, we do a little bit more than that. But some of those things, yes. Doesn't really do in-game strat stuff. Yeah, I mean, for the most part, not really. It also depends on like what we're really talking about when it comes to strat stuff. But again, generally speaking, for in-game stuff, that would be averagely accurate, right? Chisgule, neither. No, Chiz has done in-game stuff. He's definitely done more in-game stuff than I've done. Absolutely. Of course, he deserves it. He brings numbers and comments in videos he makes more than any other creator in COD. Lol, maybe Gunz is catching up. His work was already done with Rock. He's crushing now. You don't have to eternally work hard. Just work hard at the right time. And I think this is a good point when it comes to that what Davis is saying, because I think you have to look at the amount of views in the eyes that a big creator like Chisgule is able to bring to the game. It absolutely helps. I don't think there's any question about that. And I think it's important to understand that there is a level of value there, right? I mean, Chiz has 250,000 plus subscribers, right? Even if he's averaging a couple thousand up to maybe mid high, not tens, but like singles, right? So it'd be something like a 6, 7, 8K, right? Somewhere kind of averaging maybe in that range if it's, per video. Again, that's still a number of people from Rock that he's also appealing to, right? Because his channel is primarily Rock. So him being able to kind of double dip his toes absolutely helps out the community when it comes to getting more viewership on the game. Unlike someone like myself, well, I would probably say someone maybe more like Gunz, and maybe Princess would fall into this category. Hulkston's probably a little bit more like me and on the Chiz side, as far as an example of this is like, from my understanding, right, Gunz had came in on his channel primarily doing COD as of late. I don't know if there was a lot of stuff that he was doing prior to that. I have to go look at some of his oldest content as well. No, yeah, so he started initially, even if I click on oldest, right, he started initially doing COD. So his base is primarily going to be COD because that's the game he's playing, right? And I'll show you an example here, right? So you look at his oldest. If I'm on Chiz's channel, I look at Chiz's oldest, right? And there's stuff that he was doing before this, but then you look at where is it? Him coming into Rise of Civilizations, right? This is before it became ROK. And you can see 6 years ago, right? He put out a video on this. Before that, he was doing something else. So primarily Rock for him, right? If you go to Hulkston and I click oldest for him, right? Hulk was doing a lot of other stuff, right? Before then. But the point I'm saying is that someone like Hulk, even me, right? If you look at some of my, I mean, if you go oldest from me, it's like I do like interviews and other stuff. But if I go far enough down, I got to see where my Infinity Kingdom stuff is. Hang on, I have to like really go far for this, possibly. Hang on, it's gonna come. I just have to scroll. There's a lot of interviews that we did back in the day. If anyone wants some interesting stuff. Where so here we go. Right. So then I started doing some Rock stuff. And you can see like there's some Infinity Kingdom stuff mixed in, right? It was a very, very light Rock stuff. Most of my stuff was unlisted videos at the time. But then you can see I did a lot of Infinity Kingdom, right? A lot of Infinity Kingdom. And then eventually went over to COD, right? So my point there is saying that like you have a community that was able to transition, because when I went from Infinity Kingdom to COD, it was kind of like a cold turkey event, if you will. But I was able to bring some people over to COD from Infinity Kingdom, just like Chiz was able to bring some people over from Rock. And I'm sure some people that watched Hulkston, right, if they played other games, maybe they might have been interested as well. It's a little bit different because I don't know if Hulk did play other kingdom builders. So I know in Chiz, in my example, it's a little bit more kind of within the umbrella, if you will. But that's just kind of the point that I wanted to make there, is that there is still value in that. Right. And then we have, so here's the thing. I think we're coming to it now, but I wanted to get, right. So it says, don't justify that to hate on the guy. He started in Rock, grinding, Rock still playing. He plays COD as well, but he's probably attached to his Rock account, of course. And then we get, here we go. So Dog says, sometimes passing the torch to someone new and still excited about the game is better for pulling new players. So, right, and this was something I saw, which was interesting, right? And then Davis said, okay, here it is, right? But I don't understand the passing the torch. He worked hard to have a partnership with the companies. Other people working hard will get the same, brother. Gunz worked his arse off and got partner. Then it's like business. They look at views and potential clients you can bring and other things and negotiate a contract with you. And again, this is really important, right? Is you have situations where, in Gunz's case, he absolutely grinded and he worked his way, and deservingly so, to make partner. Now, keep in mind, even if you look at like the Chiz situation where, it's almost like, okay, he just kind of automatically became partner. Well, keep in mind, he is already performing. The game is very similar, right? People were calling it the brother and sister, like the Rock 2.0. So there was a lot of factors going into it that made it feel like, well, there would already be a really good and high percentage of existing viewership or transferable viewership from one title to the next. So, don't get me wrong, like even and I'm sure like other creators that are working, right, they would love to be able to get to that point at some time. But I just wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit because part of it to me just felt unfair that, Chiz was kind of getting a little bit of that chastising. And at the same time, it felt like it was appropriate to provide a little bit more context to as well. And I think if you look at Gunz and his, just as for him as an example, and you look at his progression from how he started to where he is now, you look at some of his average video viewership, and they're either right there with Chiz or a little bit higher in some cases, right? I think you probably still have a little bit more consistency on Chiz's side, but again, I think it's interesting because if Gunz continues to put out more consistent videos, right? Because I don't think Gunz puts out videos on a daily basis. He probably puts them out maybe a little bit more frequently than Chiz does, even if it is only a bit more. But you could see, I mean, he's right there. And so, right, hopefully he'll be able to continue growing as well. And I think for me, the one thing I really, if I was just to end this on, would just be to say that I really wish the game just did more in general. And we've talked about this before, and I've said this to the dev team as well, to the CC team, is, it would be nice. It would always be appreciated if there was more opportunities for promotion of creators. And even though they've done some things, like for when Gunz made partner, I think they put a Facebook ad out or a post out about that. But there just could be more things done. And there's a massive opportunity, a massive window for them to assist and help creators grow because it puts more eyes on content. And then it also can improve what those creators offer and cover in the game because they're growing, they're making more money, and now you can argue there can be more flexibility to do so. So it's like this nice kind of circle of life, like this symbiotic cycle, if you will, that it's like a give and take, but it can be mutually beneficial. Anyways, those are my thoughts. I'd love to know what you guys think. Again, do you agree? Do you disagree on who's deserving, who's not deserving? You still feel the way you do? Maybe you're a little bit of a changed opinion. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. That's it for me. As always, until next time, we'll catch you later.